Good morning. Hello to all my colleagues and fellow educators. So, we're working on talking about how we're going to bring PLCs to us. And I know a lot of people are going to ask, what is a PLC? And so, we're going to cover that, and then we're going to cover how it looks with our mission vision statement, how it works with our school model, how it what our steps are going to be in order for this to happen. So I appreciate you sticking in there with me as Coco and I, help you through this. So a professional learning community, goals of it is to ensure that students are learning. That is a huge part of a professional learning community. It is talking about how are our students learning? How do they learn? What do they need to be successful? It's going to foster a culture of collaboration, of us working as a team. This is not the idea of, well, those are your kids in your classroom, so you handle them. No, we are working as a group because these are our kids. It's also to foster that culture of collaboration to improve our school. Our staff need to know that they can work together. I can go to so and so and be like, hey, I have this student who's struggling with this concept. How have you taught this in the past? Or do you have ideas to help me out? It's utilizing our academic coaches, our reading, our math, our social worker, and being like, I have students with needs. How do I do this? And then figuring out how to remove those barriers to success so that all of our kids can experience those success moments. And then it's very data driven. It's looking at those results. It's not just based on our assessments. That's a huge part of our data, but it's also looking at how our kids learning our concepts we're trying to teach them. Something to keep in mind is these are not just staff meetings. PLCs are not staff meetings. Um, you know, it, we utilize the term PLC or professional learning community so much that it's losing their meaning and validity. And we need to get back to the fact that it needs to be looking at students, looking at how they learn, working together. Okay. And it is data driven, but it's also, again, those needs of student, staff, community members. Our community is huge. That's our parents. That's the outside community. Utilize the resources we have around. We have amazing ones out there that could help us with teaching concepts that our kids might not have access to. Okay. There are three bigger ideas that are widely represented when it comes to PLCs. They're focused on learning. It's that collaboration, like I talked about, and it's results driven. Just to sum it up, that is the three big ideas. And then there are four main questions we have to look at. Okay. What do we expect all students to know? What is your end goal? What do we want students to know? Do we want them all to know? And that's kind of looking at our standards, right? Big part of standards, let's think they have to know multiplication by the end and master multiplication by the end of fourth grade. Okay, just an example. Now, we have to think, how will we know when our students have mastered it? Have they mastered it? We're going to look at those assessments. We're going to look at that data to figure out how their little brains are working when it comes to these concepts. And then we're going to have to look at, how do we intervene when students are having a difficult time? What's our RTI process? You have our tier one. If we're looking at our triangle, I like doing it breaking down, right? Going upside down. You have the tier one, the big one. That's what we want everyone to know. Now it's breaking into that second group of needing a little extra intervention. And then we break into, how are we going to support our special education students who might not be where they need to be? There's gaps. We got to figure out how to close those gaps. Okay. And then it's also going to be, how are we going to respond to students when they demonstrate that they have learned and that they've mastered this? What is enrichment going to look like? Okay. We're not just going to throw more work at these kids. No. How do we pull resources? What resources can we use that's going to enrich our kiddos? It's a huge part of RTI. It's working together to figure out who's going to do those interventions. Is it going to be the teacher with the small group, or are we going to pull our reading interventionists, our academic specialists, our reading coach, our math coach? Are we going to pull a buddy teacher in? Are they going to go work with a second grade group so that if you have a third grader who's at a second grade level, are they going to go work with second grade so that they can build up those skills? Meet them where they're at. Okay. Now we're going to transition quick into just the mission statement. What's our vision, right? Every learner will have the opportunity to be challenged, to succeed, and will strive to be prepared for the future. Okay. We don't want kids to give up. I can't do this. I don't have a future. No more excuses. We have to make it so that every success our kids have points to how it's going to benefit them in the future. Okay. And then the big part of parent, staff, community, and students will demonstrate the highest level of expectations for themselves and the school. This is not just students being challenged to succeed and to strive. It is also us as staff members, as educators, the whole staff. That includes our cafeteria, that includes our janitors, it includes our maintenance team. It's everyone needs to hold these expectations for ourselves and for our kiddos, or we're not going to be successful. Okay. Now, breaking down that just a little further, we're going to challenge them, right? Our higher students who have mastered these skills, how are we going to challenge them? Okay, let's find and collaborate and work those resources. Okay, they're going to experience success. We're going to celebrate little successes. Oh my gosh, you went from reading 20 words per minute to reading 30 words per minute with your fluency this week. That's amazing. Okay. Or bringing it to an all school assembly, being like, my kiddos did great on our assessments. We all went up, okay, on our benchmark. Bringing it so that it is these huge successes, okay? Holding yourself accountable. I know sometimes as an adult, I struggle with that whole idea of, I don't know if I can hold myself accountable, but I did this and now I do have to be like, yep, that was me. Okay. And then making sure our students are prepared for the future. Okay. So what's this going to look like for us? Okay. There are kind of going to be steps. We need to make sure we're looking at our academic based PLCs. Okay. Our reading, our math. Maybe we're going to do science. Maybe we're going to have some social studies because the reading and math work into those. Okay. And we need to find resources so that our science and our social study program are just as strong as our reading and math. Okay. And then I do have social emotional health on here because I think it's going to be important for us as a staff to collaborate and work to find resources that are going to help our kiddo, not only our kiddos, but ourselves with our social and emotional health. Okay, mental health. We got to get rid of the stigma that mental health is taboo. Okay, we're moving into a world where it's not. So we need to figure out resources and collab. And I'm going to work with like our social workers and maybe our school psychologists to make sure that that happens. Okay. We also, our PLCs are going to turn into data teams. We have our specific data teams that look at how our kids have done on our benchmark and our state testing, right? That's our coaches sit down and look at that. But they're going to bring it back and we're going to analyze that data further. What did it look like? How can we get kiddo A up to where they need to be? How do we keep with student B who might be up here? How do we get them to be where they need to be? Okay. Staff need to collaborate. So I'm going to be working also to have almost like a wellness coordinator position kind of open up where we're going to have staff wellness be a big part of how we're doing. If we're not feeling good, we're not going to teach our best. It's not going to happen. Okay. If you're not going to feel up for the challenge, if you're burnt out already and we haven't even started school, we're not going to be successful. Okay. And we also need to remember that these PLCs are not just going to be, this is happening this year. No, they're going to continue on. We need to continue to work forward. And it's always going to be, if we have a new teacher starting, they can come in and immediately know, oh, okay, I know that I have, this is already in place. How do I get involved with it? Okay, they're not going to be coming in and going, I don't know what's going on. We're going to support our staff that come in. That's part of that collaboration piece. It's part of us being a team. Okay, so We will be figuring out more PLCs as we come into the future. Um, and I want people to understand that there is a lot that goes with PLCs. Okay. And I do have, I mean, I pulled some of the big ideas and the questions from pamphlets and articles, and I do have those cited here. Um, and I'll also have copies of them available for you to look at and use. I'll also include them digitally. Um, and I want people, if you have questions, ask your coworkers. If we need to think about how does this impact us, okay, what is the big point and purpose? It's so that our kids can experience success. And when our kids experience success, we experience that success. It goes hand in hand. If our kids are doing well, we're tending to do well. We all work together. Okay. Um, so, with that said, thank you for listening to this brief presentation on PLCs and how we're going to bring them to our school. And I will talk at you later.